The spoon never made it to her mouth. It stopped mid-air, trembling, suspended, like the silence that fell between us. Her eyes were still locked on the screen, fingers hovering over a message she clearly didn't mean for me to see. It was 7:42 a.m. She was wearing my hoodie, the one I thought she stopped liking months ago, the one that still smelled like the detergent we argued over. The sleeves swallowed her wrist the same way I used to, and all I could think was, why did she smile like that just now? It was small, a flicker, barely there. But it wasn't mine. It didn't belong to anything I said or did. It belonged to him, whoever he was. Let me rewind. Not far, just 16 minutes. She sat across from me at the table. I was folding butter into a pancake that turned out raw in the middle again. I wasn't even hungry. I just wanted to be near her without making it a thing. They say when you live with someone long enough, you stop noticing the details. But this morning, the details screamed at me. New lipstick. New earrings. A slight glow. The kind she never had after sleeping next to me. She chuckled at something on her phone. A laugh she used to save for me. So I leaned in. I didn't even plan it. I just looked. I asked, trying to play it cool, everything okay? She didn't look up. MHM. Just a meme. But then she tilted her phone away, just slightly. That move, it buried me. Like a shovel of ice to the chest. I said I was going to grab the mail. There was no mail. I just needed an excuse to breathe. When I came back inside, she had put her phone screen down. Still smiling. Still pretending nothing happened. And then I saw it. Her smartwatch lit up when she reached for her spoon. No, a speech balloon. Last night was insane. Still can't stop thinking about your voice. That's when the spoon froze. That's when the blood left my body. That's when the carpet under my feet might as well have opened into a bottomless hole. She knew. She knew I saw it. And in that moment, something shifted between us forever. She lowered the spoon. Didn't speak. Just quietly locked the screen. And I smiled like an idiot. Like a man who didn't just watch the floor beneath his life crack open. Enjoy your oatmeal, I whispered. Then I stood up, heart thrashing, hands numb, and walked out the front door like I forgot my own name. I didn't drive anywhere. I just sat in my car, parked halfway across our driveway like a man who had forgotten how driving worked. The keys dangled in the ignition. Engine off. Rain started dusting the windshield even though the sky looked clear a few minutes ago. I watched the drops gather, slide, split. I had this bizarre thought that if I just sat there long enough, maybe I'd wake up. Like the morning would reset. Maybe I'd walk back inside and she'd be humming in the kitchen, wearing something that didn't reek of someone else's approval. Maybe she'd call me babe like she used to, not just hey. Maybe I'd find my place in the story again. But none of that happened. Because I knew something had ended. I didn't want to be dramatic. I didn't want to accuse her. God knows I've made mistakes, not those kinds of mistakes, but still. I've been emotionally distant. I've let my insecurities pile up like unopened mail. I've brushed her off when she needed warmth and leaned on her when I didn't even realize I was being heavy. But I never betrayed her. Not like this. Not like whatever the hell last night was insane meant. And you know the worst part? The absolute stupidest, most pathetic part? A small, pitiful piece of me still hoped it was nothing. So I went back inside, acting like I forgot something. I grabbed my work bag, even though I wasn't going to work. She was in the bedroom, standing by the mirror, fixing her hair. I saw her glance at her reflection, not to admire, but to check. The kind of check you do before seeing someone you want to impress. Heading out? I asked. She jumped a little. Yeah, I told you. Big pitch today. I nodded. Need a ride? She shook her head too fast. No, I'm already carpooling. With Tasha. Tasha. Her co-worker with the chaotic love life and a track record of bailing last minute. Tasha, whose name she always said with an exhausted sigh, until today, apparently. I smiled too wide. Cool. Tell Tasha I said hi. She didn't respond. Just gave me a kiss on the cheek, cold, barely there, and grabbed her coat. I watched her walk down the steps and slide into the passenger seat of a sleek black car I had never seen before. The windows were tinted, but I recognized the silhouette of the driver. Broad shoulders. One hand on the wheel like he owned the road. Her hand reached out, I swear to God, and touched his forearm as she laughed at something he said. I stood there, behind the curtain, holding my breath until I nearly choked on it. So yeah, they said, check her out. And I did. And now I can't unsee what I saw. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a blink. I laid there in bed, pretending to breathe evenly while she curled into her usual side, facing the wall. She always used to sleep on my chest. Now she guarded herself like she was in enemy territory. I stared at the ceiling, tracing every tiny crack in the paint, counting the seconds between each blink of the router light, wondering if this was what dying slowly felt like, a death by silence, by knowing, by pretending not to know. When her breathing shifted into that steady rhythm that told me she was finally asleep, I slipped out of bed and padded barefoot to the living room. I sat on the floor with my laptop on the coffee table, lit only by the soft blue glow of betrayal. I wasn't trying to be sneaky. I wasn't snooping. I just needed answers. Something concrete. Something to justify the screaming in my chest. I opened her calendar first. We share a family Google account. She had blocked off yesterday morning as hair appointment. I clicked on it. Location? Blank. I hovered for a second, then opened her Google Maps timeline. She had visited a location labeled private. That's it. Just the word. No business name. No hours. Just coordinates near a furniture warehouse in the west end of town. Odd, right? Then I did something I'm not proud of. I went to her cloud storage. The automatic backup for her phone photos. My hands were shaking as I clicked the folder marked Recents. There were dozens of new photos from the past few days. But not selfies. Not food. Not our dog. Not even her friends. They were of a wall. A gray wall. A mirror. The corner of a hotel room I didn't recognize. And in one, blurry, angled wrong, almost as if it was taken by accident, there was a man's shoe. Dark leather. Sizable. Not mine. I closed the laptop so hard it made the dog flinch. He looked up from his spot on the couch, ears down, eyes wide, like he knew something in the air was wrong. I whispered, "It's okay," but even he didn't believe me. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. Made toast. Complained about the almond milk being expired. She even kissed me on the forehead, like we were still normal. Like I didn't sit in the dark the whole night unraveling the lie she was keeping warm. I wanted to confront her. God, I did. But I also wanted to catch her in it. Not just emotionally. Tangibly. I needed her to look at me and lie to my face while holding the evidence in her hands. So I called out sick again. Told her I was just feeling off. She didn't push it. When she left for work, I waited 5 minutes and followed her in my car. She didn't go to her office. She drove straight to a hotel. I didn't even bother parking far away. I pulled into the lot 3 rows behind her and watched from behind a pair of gas station sunglasses I grabbed on my way out. I saw her sit in her car, checking her makeup in the mirror, texting someone, fixing her hair, checking the mirror again. Then he pulled up. He didn't even park. He pulled up next to her, leaned over, and she climbed in his passenger seat. They drove off. Not into the hotel. Not anywhere public. They circled around and parked in the back, out of camera view. She looked nervous. He looked comfortable. And then, I swear, I watched her lean over. His hand went behind her head. The car shook slightly, and everything in me just dissolved. I took a photo. Again. Shaky hands. Blurred. But proof. I sat there in my car with my entire world shattered in my lap and a single thought looping in my head. They said, check her out. I did. And now I don't know what to do with what I saw. I don't even remember driving home. I know I stopped somewhere. There was a receipt in my jacket pocket from a drive-thru I didn't taste, but the entire afternoon is a blur, like walking through a burning building and not realizing you're on fire until it's too late. I must have sat in the garage with the car off, just breathing in fumes of rage and disbelief. My phone buzzed once. A message from Cassidy. Cassidy, heading home in a bit. Want tie or something? Tie. Like she hadn't just spent her afternoon wrapped around someone else's steering wheel. I stared at that message for a long time. The banality of it. The practiced calm. The way she was still playing the part of a wife like we were reading from a worn-out script that no longer applied to the stage we were standing on. I didn't respond. Instead, I got out of the car, walked inside, and stared at our wedding photo on the wall. Her eyes in that picture haunted me. Wide, bright, full of dreams. She had reached for my hand that day like I was the safest place in the world. And now I couldn't help but wonder if the woman in that photo had been real, or just a great actress caught in soft lighting. I sat on the edge of the bed with the laptop again. I didn't want to open it, but I knew I had to. I had to look for the thing I was most afraid of, proof not just of cheating, but of connection, love, intimacy, the stuff that takes root deeper than the body. It didn't take long. I found a hidden folder, nothing fancy, just renamed to work docs. But inside were voice notes. Short ones. like audio messages. I listened to the first one. Her voice, low and breathless, said, "I can't stop thinking about what you whispered in the elevator." I didn't listen to the rest. I couldn't. My hands were shaking too hard. My stomach curled into itself like it wanted to disappear. I felt like I was hearing a version of her I'd never met. Soft, seductive, completely detached from the woman who still used my Netflix account and kissed my forehead when she thought I was asleep. When she came home that night, she brought Thai. She lit a candle. She even poured wine, humming under her breath like everything was okay. She said, "You look tired." I said, "Long day." She nodded. No follow-up. No warmth. Just the script. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the wine glass against the wall and ask her who he was, how long it had been, if she ever loved me at all. But instead, I stared at her across the table and asked calmly, "Do you think people change slowly or all at once?" She froze, chopsticks midair. "What do you mean?" "Just curious. Like, does someone wake up and decide they don't love their spouse anymore? Or is it gradual?" She forced a smile. "Is this one of your podcast thoughts?" I nodded. "Yeah, probably." She ate quietly after that. No more humming. No more questions. Later that night, she showered and climbed into bed like always. She turned away, like always. I lay there, wide awake, watching the shadows crawl across the ceiling. And for the first time since I'd met her, I didn't know if she was ever coming back to me. Not physically, but in the way that mattered. The part of her that smiled with her whole face. That touched me without flinching. That made me believe we were more than just two people coexisting in a box of borrowed routines. That woman was gone, and I was starting to realize she may have left long before today. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to catch her in the act just to blow up our lives in a moment of cinematic justice. I didn't want a big scene, or screaming, or some grand confrontation with fists and ultimatums. I just wanted the truth, raw, painful, and real. Because the lies had become their own kind of violence. They were quieter than punches, but they left bruises in places no one could see. That's how I found myself in a storage unit the next morning. Not because I'd left her. God, I wish I had the spine to do that right then. But because I needed a place to think, to breathe, to unravel. A friend from college had one he barely used, and he owed me for a favor that involved bailing him out of a very dumb bar fight in Atlanta 2 years ago. I asked if I could crash in it for a couple days. No questions. He said yes. I brought nothing but a sleeping bag, a thermos of cold coffee, my laptop, and a pair of noise-canceling headphones I hadn't used since Cassidy and I flew to Oregon 3 years ago. Back when we still laughed in airports. Back when I still believed all of this mattered. I sat on the cold floor, opened my laptop again, and stared at that photo, the blurry one of her and the man in the car. I zoomed in on his wrist. A watch. Silver, expensive, and oddly familiar. That detail, it stuck in my head like a splinter. I went back through her Instagram. She hadn't posted much recently, but last summer, she had shared a group photo from some company event. Her arm was around a man I didn't recognize, a clean-shaven guy with a white smile and that same silver watch. Tagged at @no_vixen. I clicked his profile. Private. But his profile picture was with her. Not close. Not inappropriate. But now that I knew, every detail screamed louder. They'd been working together for months. Countless late nights at the agency. Dozens of vague texts. That unexplained trip to San Diego she took alone. My stomach turned as I realized how many signs I'd dismissed under the label of trust. Was I stupid? Was I weak? Or had I just loved her too loudly while she was slipping away silently? I did something I'd been dreading. I reached out to Tasha. Yes, that Tasha, the one she always claimed to be carpooling with. The one she blamed for every weird schedule change. I still had her number from a Christmas party 2 years ago when she helped me surprise Cassidy with a weekend trip to the mountains. I sent a text. Hey Tasha, sorry to bother. Weird question. Was Cassidy really with you Monday afternoon? I just want to clear my head about something. She replied almost instantly. Wait, what? Monday? No, I haven't seen her since last Thursday. Everything okay? I stared at the message, heart thudding in my ears. I typed. I think she's seeing someone. I just don't know how to bring it up without wrecking everything. A pause. Then, I had a feeling. She hasn't been herself for a while. I thought you knew. I'm sorry. I thought you knew. 5 words that gutted me more than all the photos and all the silence combined. Because that meant other people saw it, too. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't jealous. I was just the last idiot in the room who still believed in her. That night, I didn't go home. I left her a voicemail saying I needed space to think. I didn't say where I was. I didn't ask her to call back. I just told her, plainly, I don't trust what we have anymore. I don't trust that I know you. Her response came hours later in a cold, flat text. If this is your way of punishing me for being busy, it's not working. I'll be home whenever you're ready to talk like an adult. Like an adult. As if the childish one in the story was me. As if sitting alone on a concrete floor, sorting through digital shards of your broken marriage, made you immature. I locked my phone and sat there in the dark, hugging my knees to my chest like a child, while the hum of distant traffic and the sharp sting of betrayal kept me wide awake. I wasn't punishing her. I was finally listening to the voice inside me screaming that something was deeply, terribly wrong. And I was terrified that maybe, just maybe, it was already too late to fix it. When I finally returned home 2 days later, nothing looked out of place, and somehow, that was the worst part. The throw blanket was still draped over the arm of the couch, perfectly folded the way she likes it. The mail was stacked in a neat little pile next to the fruit bowl, which held exactly 3 green apples. Cassidy's touch was everywhere, down to the candle on the dining table that smelled like fig and mint in Sunday mornings. But the house felt hollow, like someone had erased its warmth and left behind a showroom model of our life. She was in the kitchen when I walked in. Not angry, not tearful, just normal. She looked up, barely startled. No rush to hug me. No desperation in her eyes. Just that unreadable expression she'd perfected lately, the one that said, "What now?" "Hey," she said. "I was starting to wonder if you were okay." I dropped my keys on the counter with more force than necessary. "You didn't call. You told me not to." I didn't respond right away. I opened the fridge instead, just to buy a second of stillness. Inside was a bottle of wine, a half-eaten Caesar salad, and a takeout box labeled Noah. My blood ran cold. I shut it without a word. She leaned against the counter, arms folded. "So, are we going to talk about whatever this dramatic vanishing act was? Or are you just going to keep doing the brooding loner thing?" I turned to face her fully. "I know." "Know what?" I let the silence stretch between us until it hurt. Then, very calmly, I said, "I know about the hotel. I know about the car. I know about the audio messages in the calendar blocks and your little folder called Work Docs. I know it's Noah." Her expression didn't flicker. That terrified me more than any screaming match ever could have. Finally, she sighed. "Okay. That was it. No denial. No shocked gasp. No explosion of excuses. Just okay." I had prepared for everything, rage, manipulation, even crocodile tears. But not this. Not quiet, practiced resignation. "You're not even going to deny it?" I asked, my voice cracking at the edges. "What's the point?" she said, her voice flat. "You already dug through my phone. You already made your mind up. What good would lying do now?" My legs nearly gave out. I leaned on the counter, trying to keep from sinking into the floor. "How long?" 6 months, she said without hesitation. "Maybe 7. I don't know. Time gets blurry when you're unhappy." Unhappy. She dropped that word like it was a casual diagnosis, like saying I think I'm allergic to dairy. I stared at her, blinking. "Then why didn't you tell me?" She shrugged. "I didn't want to hurt you." I actually laughed. A hollow, bitter thing. "You didn't want to hurt me, so you slept with someone I've never even met and left a trail of lies you didn't bother to clean up?" "It wasn't like that." "Then tell me what it was like, Cassidy. Please. Because I feel like I've been sleeping next to a stranger for almost a year and no one gave me the memo." She didn't say anything. Just turned her head toward the window like there was something deeply important happening outside. I continued. I tried so damn hard to keep us together. To not complain. To understand your late nights and the distance and the way you stopped laughing at my jokes. I blamed myself for all of it. I thought I was failing you." "You weren't," she whispered. "Then why am?" She exhaled sharply through her nose, like the question was an annoyance more than a moral reckoning. "Because he made me feel seen. That's it. There's no poetic explanation. He noticed me. I noticed you." I snapped. "I was there every single day. But you stopped wanting me," she shot back. "You looked at me like I was furniture. Safe. Familiar. Background noise. And maybe that's what I became." That was the first time I saw something crack in her voice. Not quite regret, just the weight of saying something ugly out loud. Something neither of us could take back. I nodded slowly. "So that's it then. You gave up before I even had a chance to fight for us." She didn't answer. I walked upstairs and started packing a bag. Not with rage. Not even sadness anymore. Just numb, mechanical movements. Shirt, jeans, socks, toothbrush, charger. That was all I needed. Just enough to be gone but not lost. I didn't slam any doors. I didn't cry. Before I left, I stood at the threshold of our bedroom and said the one thing I had never imagined would come out of my mouth. I loved you more than you'll ever know. But I won't be a ghost in this house. Then I walked out the door, leaving behind the woman I used to believe was my forever. It's funny what your brain decides to hold onto when your life's being disassembled in real time. For me, it wasn't her confession, or the name Noah, or even the moment I stepped out the front door for what I thought might be the last time. It was the sound the zipper made on my overnight bag. That tiny, scratching finality. It echoed in my ears longer than anything else that day. Because in that second, it felt like I'd zipped shut the last 6 years of my life. Compressed them. Filed them away in a travel bag I'd once used on our anniversary trip to Savannah. I didn't go far. Just checked into a sad little extended stay off Route 43, where the towels smelled like bleach and the night manager looked like he'd seen too many people run away from homes they didn't want to talk about. He handed me the key card like it was a Band-Aid. I said thanks, even though my voice didn't sound like mine anymore. The room had one of those fake kitchenettes and a couch that looked soft until you sat on it. I didn't bother unpacking. I just dropped the bag on the floor and sat at the foot of the bed, staring at my reflection in the black TV screen. I looked like a man who hadn't just lost something, but someone who finally realized he'd already lost it long ago and just didn't want to believe it. I opened my phone. 2 missed calls from Cassidy. 1 voicemail. And a single text. Cassidy, you're being dramatic. We can still talk through this. Please stop disappearing. No apology. No remorse. Just negotiation. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the Notes app and started writing things I could no longer say to her face. It wasn't poetry. Just a list. I never stopped noticing you. I waited every night for you to come to bed without your phone in your hand. You used to hum when you made coffee. When did you stop? I kept your birthday card in my wallet for 3 years. I learned how to make mushroom risotto because you said you missed your dad's. You said I stopped wanting you, but you stopped letting me. The list went on until the words blurred. It felt like grief, but different, like mourning a version of someone who still technically existed but wasn't reachable anymore. Around 11:30, I got another text. Cassidy, Noah doesn't even matter. It wasn't love. It was noise. I was tired of silence. That hit harder than anything else. Because it confirmed what I feared most. I wasn't replaced. I was ignored. She didn't cheat because she loved someone else. She cheated because she didn't feel anything for me anymore. I had become a blank space in her life. A wall. A silence. I tossed my phone onto the bed and sat back against the wall, trying to remember the last time we had laughed together. Not the kind of laugh you perform for company. I mean the real kind. The helpless, we're on the same team kind. I couldn't remember. I think it might have been before the holidays. Maybe before her new job. Or maybe it was even longer than that. Maybe I only imagined it. The next morning, I walked 2 miles to clear my head. No destination. Just feet moving because standing still felt like death. The sun was too bright. The world too normal. A couple jogged past me, holding hands, headphones in. A dog barked at a squirrel. A kid rode his scooter across a cracked sidewalk. Life was happening at full volume, and I was walking through it on mute. I ended up at a park bench I didn't remember how I got to. I sat down and stared at my hands for a while, thinking about what came next. Divorce? Therapy? Some grand forgiveness? And then I realized I didn't want closure. I wanted honesty. I wanted to speak, unfiltered, for once. Not to win, not to shame, but to finally be heard. So I texted her. Tonight, 7 p.m. One conversation. You talk, I talk. No lies. Then we figure out where we go from there. She replied 2 minutes later. Okay. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know if okay was surrender or strategy. All I knew was that at 7 p.m., I was going to look into the eyes of the woman I married, and I wasn't going to flinch, even if what she said destroyed me for good. At 6:58 p.m., I stood outside the front door, palms sweaty, heart pounding like I was about to defuse a bomb. The neighborhood looked the same, kids on bikes, porch lights flicking on, someone grilling 2 houses down. But everything about my life felt unrecognizable. Like I was visiting the ruins of something sacred and trying to remember how it all used to feel. I walked in without knocking. My key still worked. Cassidy was sitting on the edge of the couch, legs crossed, hands folded in her lap like she'd been rehearsing her posture. She looked up and didn't speak right away. I didn't either. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, the silence didn't feel like a punishment. She gestured to the seat across from her. I sat. No drinks. No distractions. Just the truth between us, waiting. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said softly. I wasn't sure either, I replied. But I meant it. No lies. Say what you need to say. She nodded, took a breath, and began. I didn't plan for any of this to happen. And I know how worthless that sounds now. I was lonely. Angry. I felt like I was vanishing in front of you and you didn't notice. But that's not an excuse. What I did wasn't just a betrayal, it was cowardice. Her voice broke slightly on that last word. I didn't interrupt. I chose distraction over honesty, she continued. And I hate that it took me hurting you to finally face how broken I've become in this marriage. I've made you feel invisible, small, unloved, and yet you still gave me the decency of this conversation. You didn't destroy me. You didn't expose me. You offered me honesty, even when I didn't deserve it. I swallowed hard. My throat burned. I wasn't perfect either, I said. I shut down. I avoided confrontation. I pretended your distance didn't matter because it was easier to cope than to confront. But I never stopped caring. I never stopped loving you. I just got tired of being the only one holding the rope. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her hoodie, ironically, mine. I ended it with him, she said quietly. 3 days ago. Before you said you knew. I haven't spoken to him since. And I don't want to. I looked at her, waiting. Why? Because it didn't fix anything, she whispered. It didn't give me what I thought I was missing. It only showed me how much I still have to lose. And how much I already have. We sat in that silence again, but this time, it felt like healing. The kind that doesn't come from perfect words or grand gestures, but from the willingness to stand in the rubble together and say, let's rebuild. I'm not asking you to forget, she said, or to pretend this didn't happen. I just want to try. With real work, real therapy, real presence. And if you can't, I'll understand. But if there's even a chance, I won't waste it. I didn't respond right away. My heart wanted to leap into her arms, but my head still screamed caution. So I did the only thing I knew was honest. I reached into my pocket and handed her a folded piece of paper. It was the list I wrote in that motel room. The one with the words I never thought I'd get to say. Her hands trembled as she opened it, reading line after line, eyes brimming with tears. You remembered all of this? She asked. I never forgot. She stood slowly, stepped toward me, and placed her hand over mine, not with desperation, but with the gentleness of someone who finally understood the value of what they almost lost. Then let me remember again, too, she whispered. We didn't have all the answers that night, but we did have a beginning. And sometimes, that's all you need.